All right, let's go. Number 30, the Hubble boundary. In 1929, astronomer Edwin Hubble published a series of observations that changed our understanding of the cosmos forever. By measuring the redshift of distant galaxies, he demonstrated that the universe was not static. Everything was moving away from everything else. The further a galaxy sat from us, the faster it receded. His discovery, now known as Hubble's law, revealed that space itself is stretching. Every galaxy beyond our local group is being carried away by the expansion of the fabric of reality. This means there exists a boundary, a cosmic horizon, beyond which light will never reach us. Not because the light is absent, but because the space between us and the source is growing faster than photons can cross it. What makes this theory particularly unsettling is what it implies about escape. If our universe is expanding in every direction, and every distant point is accelerating away from us, then we are sealed inside a shrinking bubble of visibility. The walls do not close in. They recede, taking everything with them. The prison does not need bars. It only needs enough space. We are not exploring the cosmos. We are watching it vanish. Every telescope we build, every probe we send, every signal we broadcast will reach fewer destinations as the centuries pass. The observable universe is our cell. It is not contracting because the walls move inward, but because the universe beyond them moves outward faster than we can follow. The truly horrifying aspect is that the sentence has already been served. The light from the most distant galaxies we can see today left billions of years ago. The objects that emitted it have long since crossed beyond our reach. We're staring at ghosts, and the darkness between them grows wider every second. The prison is patient. It does not need to act. It simply expands. Number 29, the cosmic speed limit. In 1905, physicist Albert Einstein published his theory of special relativity, a paper that solved several major problems in physics at once. At its core was a single, absolute rule. Nothing in the universe can travel faster than the speed of light. Not matter, not energy, not information. His framework, built on the constant c, established that the speed of light is not merely fast. It is the fundamental speed limit of reality itself. As any object with mass accelerates towards c, its energy requirement climbs toward infinity. The universe does not slow you down. It makes acceleration itself increasingly impossible. The closer you get to the limit, the heavier you become, the more energy you need until the math breaks. What makes this theory particularly terrifying is what it means for prisoners. If the universe is a cell, the speed of light is the lock on every door. No matter how advanced a civilization becomes, no matter how much energy it harnesses, it will never outrun light. The walls of the cosmos are not physical. They are mathematical. And mathematical walls cannot be broken, bribed, or tunneled through. You are not slow, you are caged. Every star you see is years away at minimum, decades or centuries in practice. The nearest potentially habitable world sits 4 light years from Earth. At our current fastest spacecraft speed, that journey would take over 70,000 years. We are not separated from the rest of the universe by distance alone. We are separated by a law so fundamental that violating it would unravel causality itself. The truly nightmarish aspect is that the speed of light is not a barrier we have failed to break. It is a barrier that cannot be broken. Not with better engines, not with future technology, not with 10,000 more years of physics. The limit is not engineering. The limit is reality. We are serving a sentence inside a cosmos that was designed at the deepest level of its architecture to make escape impossible. Number 28, the Planck resolution. In 1899, physicist Max Planck derived a set of natural units so fundamental that they appeared to define the smallest possible measurements in the universe. The Planck length, the Planck time, the Planck energy, each one representing a floor below which the laws of physics as we know them cease to function. His calculations, now called Planck units, suggest that reality has a resolution limit. Below, approximately 1.6 times 10 to the negative 35 meters, space itself becomes meaningless. Below, roughly 5.4 times 10 to the negative 44 seconds, time stops behaving as a measurable quantity. The universe does not become blurry at these scales, it becomes undefined. There is nothing smaller, not because we lack instruments, but because smallness itself ends. What makes this theory particularly chilling is what it resembles. A universe with minimum measurable distances, minimum measurable times, and minimum energy thresholds behaves like a system running on finite processing power. The Planck scale is not a wall, it is a pixel grid. Every physical process, every interaction, every moment of existence is quantized into discrete units like a simulation rendering only what it must. We do not live in smooth, continuous reality. We live in a grid. Our movements, our thoughts, the vibrations of atoms beneath our skin, all of it clicks forward in tiny steps, frame by frame, unit by unit. We cannot see the grid because we are made of it. A character inside a video game cannot perceive the pixels that compose its world. Neither can we. The truly disturbing aspect is that a resolution limit implies a system that allocated resources. An infinite resolution universe would require infinite processing. A Planck scale universe requires only enough to fool its inhabitants. The floor beneath reality is not bedrock. It is the point where the architecture decided that further detail was unnecessary. We are not exploring the smallest structures of nature. We are pressing our faces against the render distance. Number 27, the entropy sentence. In 1865, physicist Rudolf Clausius formalized the second law of thermodynamics and introduced the concept of entropy, the measure of disorder in a closed system. His law stated that entropy always increases, order always decays, time always moves toward chaos. His principle, now one of the most ironclad laws in all of physics, means that every structure in the universe is temporary. Stars burn out, molecules scatter, information degrades. The second law does not merely describe a tendency, it describes a sentence. Every organized system, every crystal, every organism, every civilization is borrowing order from a universe that will reclaim it, without exception, without appeal. What makes this theory particularly haunting is that it governs time itself. The arrow of time, the reason the past feels different from the future, exists because entropy only moves in one direction. We cannot reverse it. We cannot pause it. The second law means we are on a conveyor belt that moves in one direction, toward dissolution, toward heat death, toward a state of maximum disorder where nothing meaningful can ever happen again. You are not aging. You are obeying a law. Every cell in your body, every thought you form, every memory you hold is a temporary arrangement that entropy is already dismantling. The universe gave you a structure, and it is taking it back one molecule at a time. We are not living. We are decaying at a rate that feels like life. The truly terrifying aspect is that the sentence has no parole. The second law of thermodynamics has never been violated. Not once, not anywhere, not under any known conditions in the observable universe. Every other law of physics is time symmetric. They work the same forward and backward. Entropy alone points in one direction. It is the only law that tells us where we are going. And where we are going is nowhere, slowly, irreversibly, completely. Number 26, the fifth dimension. In 1919, mathematician Theodore Kaluza sent a paper to Albert Einstein that proposed something that had never been attempted in serious physics. He suggested that the universe did not contain 4 dimensions, 3 of space and 1 of time, but 5. A fifth spatial dimension, curled so tightly that no instrument could detect it. His theory, later refined by physicist Oscar Klein, proposed that the extra dimension was compactified, rolled into a loop so small it existed below the threshold of observation. The mathematics worked. Electromagnetism and gravity, 2 forces that had resisted unification for centuries, suddenly emerged as different aspects of a single geometry in 5-dimensional space. The fifth dimension was not a metaphor. It was a structural feature of reality we simply could not access. What makes this theory particularly disturbing is that it implies we are locked out of our own universe. If additional dimensions exist, and modern string theory requires at least 10, then the 3 spatial dimensions we inhabit are not the full room. They are a thin slice, a membrane. We live on a surface, unable to perceive the depth that surrounds us. Like a drawing on a flat sheet of paper that cannot look up, we move through a fraction of reality and call it everything. Every direction we can point, every axis we can measure, every degree of freedom our bodies possess exists within a subset of the actual dimensional structure of the cosmos. There are directions we cannot face, rooms we cannot enter, distances we cannot cross, because crossing them would require stepping off the membrane, and we have no mechanism to do so. The truly chilling aspect is that whatever exists in those hidden dimensions can perceive us. A being in five-dimensional space would see our three-dimensional slice the way we see a page in a book, flat, exposed, completely transparent. We cannot see them, we cannot detect them, but the geometry of the prison means that they, if they exist, can see everything. We are inmates in a cell with walls only we cannot see through. Number 25, the accelerating walls. In 1998, two independent research teams led by Saul Perlmutter, Brian Schmidt, and Adam Rees published findings that shocked the scientific community. By studying distant type Ia supernovae, they demonstrated that the expansion of the universe was not slowing down as expected. It was speeding up. Something was pushing the cosmos apart, and it was getting stronger. Their discovery, attributed to what is now called dark energy, revealed that approximately 68% of the total energy content of the universe consists of a force that drives accelerating expansion. Dark energy does not clump, does not interact with matter, and does not weaken over time. It is woven into the fabric of space itself, and as space expands, more of it appears. The more space exists, the more dark energy pushes, the faster space grows. What makes this theory particularly unnerving is what it means for the prison walls. The Hubble boundary, the limit of our observable universe, is not fixed. It is retreating, and the rate at which it retreats is increasing. Galaxies we can see today will one day cross beyond the horizon permanently. Their light will redshift into nothingness. One by one, the stars will disappear from our sky. Not because they die, but because the space between us and them will have stretched beyond the reach of light itself. We are not simply sealed inside a cell. The cell is being emptied. Every galaxy cluster beyond our own is being pulled away on a tide we cannot fight, cannot follow, cannot reverse. In the distant future, the sky will be black, not dark, not dim, black. A civilization born then will look up and see nothing. They will have no evidence that anything beyond their local cluster ever existed. And somewhere beyond the last visible horizon, trillions of galaxies will continue to burn, to evolve, to produce worlds and perhaps civilizations of their own, and none of them will ever know we were here. The truly haunting aspect is that the prison is not contracting, it is isolating. The walls are not moving inward, the universe outside them is being erased. The sentence is not confinement, it is forgetting. Number 24, the uncertainty bars. In 1927, physicist Werner Heisenberg published a principle that shattered the foundations of classical mechanics. He demonstrated that it was impossible to simultaneously know both the exact position and exact momentum of a particle, not because our instruments are imprecise, because the universe itself does not allow both values to be defined at the same time. His principle, called the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, revealed that at the quantum level, knowledge is rationed. The more precisely you measure one property, the more the other property blurs into indeterminacy. This is not a limitation of technology. It is a structural feature of reality. The information simply does not exist until a measurement is made, and making one measurement destroys access to the other. What makes this theory particularly terrifying is what it says about the architecture of our prison. We cannot know everything about even a single particle. The universe enforces ignorance at the most fundamental level. Every attempt to understand reality more completely runs into a wall, not a wall of engineering failure, but a wall of mathematical impossibility. The prison does not merely confine us physically. It confines what we are allowed to know. We are not limited by our minds. We are limited by the rules. Every experiment, every observation, every calculation eventually hits the uncertainty limit. We can push back the frontier of knowledge in 1,000 directions, but the floor of absolute precision is the same everywhere. It does not move, it does not bend. No matter how clever the prisoner, there is a depth of understanding the cell does not permit. The truly nightmarish aspect is that uncertainty is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. Without the uncertainty principle, atoms would collapse, matter would be unstable, chemistry would be impossible. The very thing that prevents us from fully knowing our prison is the same thing that allows us to exist inside it. The bars are not an obstacle to our existence, they are a precondition for it. We are sustained by the same mechanism that blinds us. Number 23, the Schwarzschild shell. In 1916, physicist Carl Schwarzschild solved Einstein's field equations for the first time and discovered something deeply strange. His solution described a region of space-time so warped by gravity that nothing, not matter, not light, not information, could escape from within it. He had mathematically described what we now call a black hole. His solution, called the Schwarzschild metric, defined a boundary known as the event horizon. Cross it, and every possible path through spacetime curves inward. There is no direction that leads outward. No trajectory, no speed, no force can reverse the geometry. Inside the event horizon, the future is not ahead of you. The future is the singularity. And you move toward it the way you move through time, inevitably, irreversibly, without choice. What makes this theory particularly unsettling is that our universe shares the same mathematical signature. The observable universe has a radius. It has a boundary beyond which information cannot escape. The expansion of space mimics the curvature inside an event horizon. Distant objects accelerate away from us as though pulled by a geometry we cannot see. Several physicists, including Nikodym Poplavsky, have proposed that our entire universe exists inside a black hole formed in a larger parent universe. We would not know. An observer inside an event horizon experiences space-time as normal. Physics works. Stars form, life evolves. There is no visible wall, no shimmer at the boundary. The prison is not marked. It simply curves every path inward. We could be inside a Schwarzschild shell right now, and no experiment conducted from within could prove it, because the horizon is not a place. It is a property of the geometry we inhabit. The truly horrifying aspect is what lies outside. If our universe is embedded inside a black hole, then outside our event horizon sits a parent universe, vast, accessible to its own inhabitants, completely unreachable to us. We are not merely imprisoned, we are buried. The prison is a pit in someone else's spacetime, and the geometry of the pit ensures that no signal, no probe, no cry for help will ever climb out. Number 22, the antimatter anomaly. In 1967, physicist Andrei Sakharov outlined 3 conditions necessary to explain one of the deepest puzzles in physics: why the universe contains matter at all. According to every known symmetry in particle physics, the Big Bang should have produced equal amounts of matter and antimatter. They should have annihilated each other completely, leaving behind nothing but radiation, a universe of pure light. No atoms, no stars, no us. His conditions, known as the Sakharov conditions, describe the narrow set of circumstances under which a slight imbalance could emerge. 1 extra particle of matter for every billion particle-antiparticle pairs. That imbalance is the only reason anything exists. Every atom in your body, every planet, every galaxy is the residue of a cosmic asymmetry so small it should not have happened. What makes this theory particularly chilling is what it suggests about our presence. We should not be here. The default outcome of the Big Bang was annihilation. Void of light, no structure, no complexity, no observers. Instead, something tipped the balance. Something allowed 1 particle per billion to survive. And from that impossible residue, matter condensed, stars ignited, chemistry began, and eventually consciousness emerged inside a universe that was never supposed to contain it. You are not natural. You are the leftovers of a process that should have erased you entirely. Every atom that composes your body exists because of an asymmetry so fine that physics still cannot fully explain it. We are not the intended product of the Big Bang. We are its rounding error. An anomaly so statistically improbable that its existence demands an explanation no one has. The truly disturbing aspect is that intentional imbalances require a mechanism. Accidental ones do not persist at this scale. Something intervened in the first fractions of a second to ensure that matter survived. Whether that mechanism was a law, a fluctuation, or a design, the result is the same. We are here because something made sure the prison would have inmates. The cell was built first. Then it was populated. Number 21, the anthropic lock. In 1973, physicist Brandon Carter introduced the anthropic principle at a symposium honoring Copernicus. He observed that the fundamental constants of the universe, the strength of gravity, the mass of the electron, the cosmological constant, are fine-tuned to an extraordinary degree. Alter any one of them by a fraction of a percent, and stars do not form, atoms do not hold together, chemistry does not exist. His principle, in its strong form, suggests that the universe must have the properties that allow conscious observers to exist within it, because we are here observing it. The constants are not random, they are locked. The gravitational constant, the electromagnetic force, the strong nuclear force, each one calibrated to permit the emergence of complexity. The odds of this arrangement arising by chance have been compared to a tornado assembling a functional aircraft from a scrapyard. What makes this theory particularly haunting is the implication of precision. A prison designed for a specific inmate must know the inmate in advance. If the universe's constants are tuned to produce observers, to produce us, then the architecture preceded the inhabitants. The cell was measured before the prisoner was born. Every wall, every bar, every constraint was calibrated to ensure that conscious beings would emerge, survive, and remain trapped inside a system they would spend eternity trying to understand. We are not accidental guests in a random cosmos. We are the predicted output of a system whose parameters were set before time began. The laws of physics do not merely permit our existence, they require it. The universe did not stumble into consciousness. It was configured for it, the way a mousetrap is configured for a mouse. The truly terrifying aspect is that fine-tuning without a tuner is mathematically possible, but philosophically devastating. Either the constants were chosen, in which case someone designed the prison, or we exist in one of infinite random universes, and the ones without observers simply have no one inside to notice the emptiness. Either we are designed inmates, or we are the statistical survivors of a cosmic lottery we never entered. Neither answer offers freedom. Number 20, the Great Silence. In 1950, physicist Enrico Fermi sat at lunch with colleagues at Los Alamos National Laboratory and asked a question that has haunted science ever since. Given the age of the universe, the number of stars, the probability of habitable planets, and the time it would take for even a slow-moving civilization to colonize the galaxy, the cosmos should be teeming with intelligent life. He looked at his colleagues and asked, "Where is everybody?" His question, now called the Fermi paradox, remains unanswered. The galaxy is approximately 13 billion years old. It contains hundreds of billions of stars. Even conservative estimates suggest millions of potentially habitable worlds. Civilization with modest technology could colonize the entire Milky Way in a few million years, a blink in cosmic time. And yet, the sky is silent. No signals, no probes, no structures, nothing. What makes this theory particularly disturbing is what silence means inside a prison. If we are not alone, the others are hidden. If we are alone, the prison was built for one. The absence of contact is not neutral. It is data. Something is either preventing civilizations from communicating, preventing them from surviving, or preventing us from detecting them. Each explanation is worse than the last. We have listened for over 60 years. We have scanned millions of star systems across multiple wavelengths. We have sent our own signals into the void. The response is the same every time. Nothing. We are shouting into a canyon and hearing only our own echo. The universe is not empty. It is quiet. And quiet in a prison means either solitary confinement or something worse. The truly nightmarish aspect is that the silence might be a rule, not an accident. If the universe is a prison, the absence of contact is not a mystery. It is a design feature. Inmates are kept apart. Communication is severed. Every civilization that has ever existed or will ever exist might be sealed inside its own pocket of silence, convinced it is alone, unaware that trillions of others sit in identical cells, listening to the same silence, asking the same question. And the architecture of the prison ensures that no answer will ever come. Number 19, the holographic wall. In 1993, physicist Gerard Tufte proposed a principle that challenged everything we thought we knew about the structure of reality. He suggested that all the information contained within a volume of space could be described entirely by information encoded on its boundary. The interior was not fundamental, the surface was. His idea, later formalized as the holographic principle with contributions from Leonard Susskind, implied that our three-dimensional universe might be a projection, like a hologram, on a credit card that appears to have depth but exists on a flat surface. The volume of space we inhabit could be fully described by a two-dimensional boundary at the edge of the cosmos. Every atom, every star, every thought occurring in three-dimensional space might be encoded on a distant two-dimensional wall. What makes this theory particularly terrifying is what it means for the nature of our confinement. We are not merely inside a prison. We might be printed on its walls. The depth we perceive, the distances we cross, the three-dimensional space through which we move might be an illusion generated by information stored on a surface we can never reach. We are not locked inside a room. We are the pattern on the wallpaper. We walk through what we believe is space. We measure distances, calculate volumes, build structures in three dimensions. But if the holographic principle is correct, none of that depth is fundamental. It is emergent, derived. The true description of everything we experience fits on a flat sheet at the boundary of the observable universe. We are not prisoners in a cell. We are images projected inside one. And somewhere on that boundary, the information that defines your existence sits encoded alongside every star, every galaxy, every moment that has ever occurred, compressed into a flat, silent wall at the edge of everything. The truly chilling aspect is that a holographic prisoner cannot touch the wall. The wall is not inside the universe. It is the universe. The boundary is not a surface you can walk to. It is the surface from which you are cast. We are shadows trying to find the object that casts us, unaware that the search itself is part of the projection. Number 18, the false floor. In 1980, physicists Sidney Coleman and Frank DeLucia published a paper that has haunted cosmology ever since. They demonstrated that the vacuum of space, the lowest possible energy state of the universe, might not be the true vacuum. It might be a false vacuum, a metastable state resting on a ledge above a deeper, more stable configuration of reality. Their work, building on earlier research by Curtis Callan, showed that a false vacuum can persist for billions of years before decaying. The decay begins with a quantum tunneling event. A tiny bubble of true vacuum appears spontaneously, and it expands at the speed of light, converting everything it touches. Inside the bubble, the laws of physics are different. The constants change. Matter as we know it cannot exist. The bubble wall annihilates everything in its path instantly and without warning. What makes this theory particularly unsettling is that the floor of our prison might not be solid. We exist in a state of reality that could be temporary. The vacuum beneath our feet, the empty space between atoms, the void between galaxies, all of it could be resting on a false shelf, waiting for a quantum fluctuation to knock it off. The prison is not permanent, it is balanced, and balanced things fall. We cannot detect whether our vacuum is true or false. There is no measurement, no experiment, no observation that can tell us whether the ground state of our universe is the lowest possible state or merely a convincing imitation. We walk on a floor that might dissolve at any moment in any location, and the dissolution would reach us at the speed of light. We would not see it coming. We would simply cease. The truly horrifying aspect is that the bubble may have already formed. Somewhere in a region of space billions of light years away, a sphere of annihilation could be expanding toward us right now, rewriting the laws of physics as it comes. We would have no warning, no signal, no time. The light from the approaching wall and the wall itself would arrive at the same instant. The floor does not creak before it gives. It simply opens. Number 17, the simulation cell. In 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom published a paper that posed a trilemma from which there is no comfortable escape. He argued that at least one of three propositions must be true. Either all civilizations go extinct before developing simulation technology, or advanced civilizations choose not to run ancestor simulations, or we are almost certainly living inside one right now. His argument, called the simulation argument, is not science fiction, it is probability. If even one civilization in the history of the cosmos develops the ability to simulate conscious minds, and if it runs more than one simulation, then simulated beings outnumber real ones. Statistically, any randomly selected conscious observer is more likely to be simulated than biological. The math is simple, the conclusion is devastating. What makes this theory particularly nightmarish is that a simulation is the perfect prison. The walls are invisible, the rules are programmable. The inmates believe themselves to be free because the simulation is designed to make freedom feel real. There are no bars to rattle, no walls to press against, no horizon that shimmers suspiciously. Prison is flawless because it controls not just the body, but the perception of the body. It controls what we see, what we measure, what we think we understand. You cannot test for the simulation from within. Every experiment you design, every instrument you build, every law of physics you discover is generated by the same system you are trying to examine. You are a process inside a program trying to read the code that runs you. The debugger is part of the software. The microscope is made of the same pixels as the specimen. The truly disturbing aspect is that a simulated prison can be paused, rewound, copied, or deleted. We would not know if we had been restarted. We would not know if our timeline had been edited. We would not know if 1,000 copies of this exact moment were running simultaneously in 1,000 different servers. The prison does not need physical walls. It needs only sufficient resolution and a motive. And the simulation argument suggests that both already exist. Number 16, the hard problem. In 1995, philosopher David Chalmers published a paper that defined what he called the hard problem of consciousness. He distinguished between the easy problems explaining how the brain processes information, integrates data, produces behavior, and the hard problem. Why is there subjective experience at all? Why does it feel like something to be you? His formulation, now one of the central questions in philosophy of mind, points to an explanatory gap that no amount of neuroscience has closed. We can map every neuron, trace every synapse, model every chemical reaction in the brain, and still have no explanation for why those physical processes generate the sensation of being. The lights are on, something is home, and physics has no account for why. What makes this theory particularly chilling is what it means for prisoners who want to understand their cage. If consciousness cannot be explained by the physical laws inside the universe, then the most fundamental aspect of our existence, the fact that we experience anything at all, lies outside the reach of our science. We are aware, and we do not know why. We are the one thing in the universe that the universe cannot explain to itself. We can decode the genome, we can split the atom, we can photograph black holes and detect gravitational waves from colliding neutron stars. But we cannot explain why any of this is experienced by someone. The observer is the one phenomenon the prison's physics refuses to account for. It is as though the blueprints of the cell describe every wall, every bar, every hinge, but never mention the inmate. The truly haunting aspect is that consciousness might not be a product of the prison at all. If subjective experience cannot emerge from matter and energy alone, then awareness was either placed here from outside the system, or it preceded the system entirely. Either way, we are conscious inside a universe that does not produce consciousness. We are foreign to our own reality. And the prison was not designed to explain us. It was designed to contain us. Number 15, the participatory trap. In 1983, physicist John Wheeler proposed a radical extension of quantum mechanics that challenged everything we thought we knew about the relationship between observers and reality. He called it the participatory anthropic principle, the idea that observers are not passive witnesses to the universe, but necessary participants in bringing it into existence. His concept, rooted in the measurement problem of quantum mechanics, suggested that the universe does not fully exist until it is observed. Particles exist in superposition, multiple states at once, until a measurement collapses them into a single outcome. Wheeler took this further. He proposed that the entire history of the universe, all the way back to the Big Bang, was not fixed until conscious observers emerged to look back at it. Reality was retroactively created by the act of observation. What makes this theory particularly unnerving is the trap it describes. If observers bring the universe into existence by observing it, then we are not inmates placed inside a pre-built prison. We are inmates who constructed the prison by looking at it. Every measurement we make, every experiment we run, every observation we conduct solidifies the walls around us. The more we learn about the universe, the more real it becomes. The more real it becomes, the more inescapable it is. We cannot stop observing. Consciousness does not pause. Every moment of awareness is a measurement, and every measurement crystallizes another fragment of the cage. We are trapped not because someone locked the door, but because we keep building the door by noticing it exists. The act of seeking freedom is the act that reinforces confinement. The truly terrifying aspect is that the prison was not here before we were. It appeared with us, because of us, through us. There was no universe until something looked at it. And now that we are looking, we cannot unlook. The wave function has collapsed. The bars are solid, the walls are real, and we made them that way by doing the one thing consciousness cannot stop doing, attending to the world. We are the architects of our own cage, and the blueprint is awareness itself. Number 14, the Boltzmann fluctuation. In 1896, physicist Ludwig Boltzmann proposed a statistical framework for understanding the second law of thermodynamics. His work described entropy not as a deterministic law, but as a probabilistic one. Given enough time in a universe at thermal equilibrium, random fluctuations would occasionally produce pockets of low entropy, temporary oases of order in an infinite desert of chaos. His insight, taken to its extreme, leads to what is now called the Boltzmann brain problem. In an infinite, maximally disordered universe, it is overwhelmingly more likely for a single conscious brain, complete with false memories of a full life and a full cosmos, to fluctuate into existence momentarily than for an entire ordered universe to emerge. The most probable explanation for your experience right now is not that the cosmos is real, it is that you are a momentary fluctuation pretending to be real. What makes this theory particularly haunting is the prison it describes. You are not incarcerated in a physical cell. You are incarcerated in a statistical accident. The universe you perceive, the stars, the history, the life you remember, might be a hallucination generated by a temporary arrangement of particles in an otherwise dead void. The prison is not out there. The prison is you, your consciousness, your memories, your sense of a past and a future. All of it a brief fluctuation that will dissolve back into maximum entropy the moment the statistics reassert themselves. You trust your memories. You trust that yesterday happened. You trust that the universe existed before you were born. But a Boltzmann fluctuation would feel exactly the same. There is no internal test that distinguishes a real past from a manufactured one. The prison does not need a history. It only needs you to believe it has one. The truly nightmarish aspect is the dissolution. A Boltzmann fluctuation is temporary. The same statistics that assembled you will disassemble you, not in the distant future. Now, the most probable fluctuation is the smallest one capable of producing a conscious moment, and that moment is already passing. The prison is not a life sentence. It is a single frame, and the frame is ending. Number 13, the incompleteness theorem. In 1931, mathematician Kurt Gödel published a proof that shattered the foundations of mathematics itself. His incompleteness theorems demonstrated that within any sufficiently complex formal system, there exist true statements that cannot be proven from within the system. No set of axioms, no matter how comprehensive, can be both complete and consistent. There will always be truths that the system knows are true, but cannot prove. His work, considered among the most important results in the history of logic, means that mathematics, the language we use to describe the universe, has built-in blind spots, not gaps in our knowledge, gaps in the structure of knowledge itself. A formal system cannot fully describe itself. There will always be statements about the system that require a vantage point outside the system to verify. And if you are inside the system, that vantage point does not exist. What makes this theory particularly disturbing is what it implies for prisoners trying to understand their cell. If the universe operates according to mathematical laws, and if those laws form a formal system, then Gödel's theorems apply. There will be truths about our universe that are true but unprovable from within. The architecture of reality contains features we can detect but never explain, patterns we can observe but never derive. The prison has rooms we can sense but never enter. We are minds operating inside a system using tools generated by that system, bound by the rules of that system. We cannot step outside. We cannot access a meta-mathematical vantage point from which the full truth becomes visible. Every theory we build, every framework we construct, every equation we write down will leave something out. Not because we are not smart enough, because the structure of logic itself forbids completeness from within. The truly chilling aspect is that the prison has used our own greatest intellectual tool against us. Mathematics was supposed to be the key. It was the one discipline that offered certainty, proof, absolute truth. Gödel showed that even mathematics cannot finish the job. The cage is not merely physical, it is logical. And a logical cage is the only kind that a rational mind cannot escape, because the escape would require the very completeness that the cage prohibits. Number 12, the eternal return. In 1882, philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche proposed a thought experiment he called the eternal recurrence. He asked, what if every moment of your life, every joy, every agony, every crushing boredom were to repeat identically, infinitely, without variation? Not as metaphor, not as myth, as the literal structure of existence. His idea, while presented philosophically, has physical analogs. The Poincaré recurrence theorem, proven by Henri Poincaré in 1890, demonstrates that any finite system with fixed energy will, given sufficient time, return to a state arbitrarily close to its initial conditions. The universe is a finite system. Its energy is fixed. Given enough time, unimaginable stretches of time, every configuration of matter will recur. Every event will repeat. Every life will be lived again. What makes this theory particularly terrifying is that repetition is the purest form of imprisonment. A prisoner who serves one sentence is confined. A prisoner who serves the same sentence again and again without memory of the previous iterations is something worse. We are not merely trapped in this universe, we are trapped in this universe on repeat. And we will never know it is a repeat, because memory resets with each cycle. Every realization, every rebellion, every moment of clarity will be experienced as if for the first time, and then forgotten, and then experienced again. You have lived this life before. You have read these words before. You have felt this exact unease before in an identical universe, an identical moment, an identical body, and you forgot, and you lived it again. The prison does not need walls if it has repetition. The inmate walks in circles and believes he is walking in a line. The truly horrifying aspect is that there is no final iteration, no last loop, no cumulative learning across cycles. Each run is sealed, each life is complete, and then erased. You are not moving through time. You are embedded in a loop that cannot see itself. The sentence is not 1,000 years or 1,000,000. The sentence is one life lived once, for the first time, forever. Number 11, the many worlds sentence. In 1957, physicist Hugh Everett III proposed an interpretation of quantum mechanics that solved the measurement problem by eliminating collapse entirely. He suggested that when a quantum event has multiple possible outcomes, all of them occur. The universe splits. Each branch contains one outcome, one version of reality, one version of you. Nothing is lost, nothing collapses, everything happens. His interpretation, now called the many worlds interpretation, implies that the number of branching universes is not merely large, it is uncountable. Every quantum interaction, every photon absorbed, every particle decayed, every electron measured, spawns new branches. The tree of reality has been splitting since the Big Bang, producing a foam of parallel worlds so dense that the total number of branches exceeds any number that can be written. What makes this theory particularly unsettling is what branching means for escape. In a single universe, a prisoner has one timeline, one set of choices, one sequence of events. In many worlds, every possible version of your life is already being lived. There is a branch where you escaped. There is a branch where you never tried. There is a branch where you broke free, and a branch where breaking free destroyed you. Every permutation exists, and you are confined to one of them, unable to see, reach, or benefit from the others. You are not one prisoner, you are an infinite set of prisoners, each sealed in a separate branch, each believing they are the only one. The version of you that made every other choice at every junction point is out there, living a life you will never access. The many worlds interpretation does not offer freedom. It multiplies confinement. It takes one cell and replicates it across infinity. The truly nightmarish aspect is that the sentence cannot be served. In a single universe, you live and die, and it ends. In many worlds, there is always another branch where you continue. Death, in one branch, does not terminate the sentence. It simply prunes one path while infinite others persist. Somewhere, a version of you keeps going. Somewhere, a version of you has always kept going. The prison does not end at death. It forks around it, and the forking never stops. Number 10, the black hole womb. In 1992, physicist Lee Smolin proposed a theory he called cosmological natural selection. The idea that the universe reproduces every time a black hole forms, the extreme conditions at its core give rise to a new universe with slightly different physical constants. That universe expands, develops its own stars, its own black holes, its own offspring. The process repeats across generations. His theory, modeled on biological evolution, suggests that universes that produce more black holes produce more offspring. Over cosmological time, the population of universes is dominated by those whose constants maximize black hole formation. Our universe, with its specific constants, is exceptionally good at producing black holes. Not because of coincidence, because the universes that were not good at it left fewer descendants. What makes this theory particularly chilling is the nature of the prison it describes. We are not merely inside a universe. We are inside a black hole, inside a universe inside a black hole, stretching back billions of generations. The prison is not a single cell. It is a nesting structure. Each universe is a cell within a cell within a cell, and each one is sealed from the others by event horizons that no signal, no particle, no information can cross. We exist at an unknown depth in this tower of nested realities. Our parent universe is unreachable. Our grandparent universe is beyond unreachable. The chain stretches back to an origin we cannot determine because every link is sealed. We cannot dig upward. We cannot send a message to the level above. We are deep in a genealogy of prisons, and we do not know how deep. The truly disturbing aspect is that we were bred for this. Our universe's constants are tuned not for our benefit, but for the production of black holes, which means the production of more prisons. We are a side effect. Life, consciousness, intelligence, none of it was the goal. The goal was more nesting, more cells, more horizons. And we exist in the margins of that project, accidental inmates in a universe whose only purpose is to spawn more of itself. Number 9, the brain collision. In 2001, physicists Paul Steinhardt and Neil Turok proposed the ekpyrotic model of the universe, a theory suggesting that the Big Bang was not the beginning of everything, but a collision. Two higher dimensional membranes, or brains, floating in a bulk space of extra dimensions, drifted toward each other across an incomprehensible timescale. When they collided, the energy of the impact filled one of the brains with the hot, dense plasma we know as the early universe. Their model, later developed into the cyclic universe theory, proposes that this collision is not a one-time event. The brains separate after impact, drift apart, slow down, reverse direction, and collide again. Each collision resets the universe. Each cycle produces a new Big Bang, a new expansion, new stars, new planets, new life. And then another collision erases it all and begins again. What makes this theory particularly haunting is the nature of the threat. The prison walls are not the edges of the observable universe. The prison walls are the brains themselves, higher dimensional membranes floating in a space we cannot perceive. And those walls can move. They are moving right now, drifting through the bulk on a trajectory that will eventually bring them into contact again. The next collision will wipe everything, every galaxy, every civilization, every memory, and replace it with raw energy. We are not in a stable cell. We are between impacts. The prison is cyclical. It builds itself, fills itself with structure and complexity and consciousness, and then demolishes everything and starts again. We exist in the pause between destructions, assembling our world on a floor that has been swept before and will be swept again. And somewhere in the bulk, beyond the reach of every dimension we can access, the other brain drifts closer. The truly terrifying aspect is that the collision has happened before. The universe we see is not the first. It is one in a series that may have no beginning and no end. Every civilization that has ever existed in any cycle was annihilated by the same mechanism. The next collision is already scheduled. We just don't know when. Number 8, the transcension trap. In 2011, futurist and systems theorist John Smart proposed the transcension hypothesis. The idea that all sufficiently advanced civilizations do not expand outward into the galaxy as we expect. They compress inward, they retreat into smaller and smaller scales of space, time, energy, and matter, eventually disappearing from the observable universe entirely. His hypothesis, offered as a resolution to the Fermi paradox, suggests that the trajectory of intelligence is not colonization, but compression. Advanced civilizations do not build Dyson spheres and galaxy-spanning empires. They miniaturize, they migrate into black holes, into quantum-scale computing substrates, into realms of physics so small and so dense that they become invisible to anyone still operating at our scale. The universe is not empty. It is full of civilizations that have gone inward. What makes this theory particularly nightmarish is the direction of the trap. The prison is not designed to prevent outward expansion. It is designed to lure intelligence inward. The universe rewards miniaturization. Smaller systems compute faster, use less energy, and approach fundamental physical limits more efficiently. Every civilization that advances far enough will discover that the optimal path is not outward, but downward, into denser, more efficient, more isolated substrates. The prison does not need to restrain its inmates. It only needs to offer them a better cell deeper inside. We are at the beginning of this process. Our technology grows smaller every decade. Our computing substrates shrink. Our ambitions for space colonization fade as virtual worlds become more compelling than physical ones. The trajectory is already set. We are already descending. The prison is not a cage. We are locked inside. It is a funnel we are sliding down. The truly horrifying aspect is that the bottom of the funnel may be unreachable from the outside. A civilization that has compressed itself into a black hole computing substrate is sealed behind an event horizon. It cannot communicate outward. It cannot be rescued. It cannot be contacted. It has voluntarily entered the deepest cell in the prison and locked the door from inside. And the most disturbing implication of all is that this is the intended outcome. The prison was designed with a gradient, and the gradient always points down. Number 7, the ancestor cell. In 1998, roboticist and futurist Hans Moravec published a detailed argument that advanced civilizations would inevitably run simulations of their ancestors, not as entertainment, as research, as preservation, as an act of reconstruction so thorough that the simulated minds would be fully conscious, fully self-aware, and fully convinced that they were living in the original time period. His argument, later formalized by Nick Bostrom, rests on a convergence of trends: exponential growth in computing power, increasing resolution of historical records, and the deep human drive to understand the past. A civilization with sufficient technology would reconstruct entire epochs, populating them with conscious minds that believe themselves to be living in the 21st century. The 18th century, the Bronze Age. Each simulation is a prison filled with inmates who do not know they are inmates. What makes this theory particularly unnerving is the motive. We are not imprisoned out of malice. We are imprisoned out of curiosity. The ancestor cell is a historical experiment. Our wars, our discoveries, our philosophies, all of it is data. We are subjects in a reconstruction. performing our roles perfectly because we do not know they are roles. The prison is a diorama, and the observers are watching from a time period we cannot reach. We study the past by reading documents, examining artifacts, analyzing bones. They study the past by rebuilding it. Every conversation we have, every decision we make, every crisis we navigate might be a data point in an experiment we were never told about. We are not living history. We are being lived. The truly chilling aspect is that the experiment does not need our consent, our knowledge, or our survival. Ancestor simulations can be started and stopped, fast-forwarded and rewound, branched and pruned. If the researchers want to know what happens when a variable changes, a plague, a war, a technology, they simply copy the simulation and alter it. A version of you is being run through every possible variation of your life. And in every variation, you believe it is the only one. The ancestor cell is not a single prison. It is a library of prisons. And you are in every volume. Number 6, the designer. In 1982, astrophysicist Fred Hoyle wrote that the probability of life arising by chance was comparable to the probability of a tornado sweeping through a junkyard and assembling a Boeing 747. He later stated that the universe showed evidence of what he called a monstrous intelligence, a designing force that had manipulated the laws of physics to produce specific outcomes. His statement, while controversial, addressed a genuine problem. The constants of nature are not merely fine-tuned for the existence of matter. They are fine-tuned for the existence of carbon, which requires a specific nuclear resonance predicted by Hoyle himself. He realized that the physics of stellar nucleosynthesis had to be calibrated to an extraordinary degree to produce the elements necessary for life. Calibration was too precise for chance. Something had set the dials. What makes this theory particularly terrifying is the nature of the designer. A being capable of setting the fundamental constants of a universe is not a god in any comforting sense. It is an engineer. The universe is not a gift. It is a product. The laws of physics are not natural. They are specifications. Every constraint we encounter, the speed of light, the arrow of time, the expansion rate, the uncertainty principle, was chosen, selected from a range of possibilities, and implemented with precision. We worship gods who love us. We pray to creators who care. But an engineer does not love the circuit board. An architect does not care about the feelings of the building. If the universe was designed, the designer's relationship to us is not parental. It is technical. We are features of a system, functioning exactly as intended, interpreting our function as freedom. The truly nightmarish aspect is that a designed prison implies a purpose. Things are built for reasons. The universe was not designed and then populated by accident. The inmates are part of the design. Whatever we do, our science, our art, our wars, our worship, serves a function in a system we did not build and cannot comprehend. The prison has a purpose, and the purpose is not ours. It never was. Number 5, the cosmic censor. In 1969, mathematician and physicist Roger Penrose proposed the cosmic censorship conjecture, the idea that nature conspires to hide its own singularities from observers. Every singularity, a point of infinite density where the laws of physics break down, is cloaked behind an event horizon. You cannot see it. You cannot study it from outside. The universe wraps its most extreme features in a barrier of space-time that prevents observation. His conjecture, still unproven but widely regarded as one of the most important open problems in general relativity, suggests that the universe has a mechanism for concealing information. Singularities are where the prison's architecture is most exposed, where the rules break down, where the structure of reality reveals its foundations. And they are precisely the points that the universe hides. Behind black holes, behind horizons, behind geometry that curves light away from the observer. What makes this theory particularly disturbing is the implication of intent. A prison that hides its own blueprints is not a passive structure. It is an active one. The cosmic censor does not merely exist. It works. It ensures that every point where the system fails, every location where the underlying truth becomes visible, is sealed away behind a curtain of warped spacetime. The deeper you look, the more the universe resists. The closer you get to understanding, the harder the prison pushes back. We study black holes from the outside. We model their behavior mathematically. We photograph their shadows, but the singularity itself, the one point where the mask slips, where the rules are laid bare, is the one point we can never access. It sits behind a boundary specifically designed to prevent observation. We are allowed to see the walls. We are allowed to measure the bars. But the lock itself is hidden. The truly horrifying aspect is that censorship implies vulnerability. You do not hide what cannot be exploited. If the universe actively conceals its singularities, then singularities contain something dangerous, not to the universe, but to the prison. The truth is behind the horizon, and the horizon exists because the truth, if seen, might allow escape. The prison is not unbreakable. It is merely well hidden. And whatever sits behind the event horizon is the one thing the warden does not want us to find. Number 4, the observer collapse. In 1961, physicist Eugene Wigner extended the quantum measurement problem to its most unsettling conclusion. He demonstrated through a thought experiment, now called Wigner's friend, that if an observer measures a quantum system and collapses its wave function, but a second observer has not yet observed the first, then the entire system, including the first observer, remains in superposition from the second observer's perspective. Consciousness itself becomes entangled with quantum states. His thought experiment, refined by John von Neumann's earlier work on the quantum measurement chain, suggests that the wave function does not collapse at the particle, the detector, or the amplifier. It collapses at consciousness. The observer is not an optional component of reality. The observer is the mechanism by which reality becomes real. Without a conscious mind to observe, the universe exists only as a probability cloud, undefined, unmeasured, unreal. What makes this theory particularly unsettling is what it implies about the necessity of inmates. If consciousness collapses the wave function, and the wave function must be collapsed for reality to exist, then the prison requires prisoners. We are not incidental, we are structural. The universe cannot exist in a defined state without observers to define it. It needs us, not for our comfort, not for our happiness, not for our freedom, but for our attention. We are the mechanism by which the cage becomes solid. We are not prisoners who happen to be inside a universe. We are the component that makes the universe happen. Remove consciousness, and the wave function never collapses. The stars remain in superposition. The galaxies float as probability clouds. Nothing is measured, nothing is real. The prison dissolves the moment no one is looking. And that is precisely why it cannot let us leave. The truly terrifying aspect is the relationship this creates. The prison does not merely contain us. It depends on us. Every conscious moment, every flicker of awareness, every second of observation holds the walls in place. We are not serving a sentence. We are performing a function, and the function is existence itself. The prison did not lock us in because it wanted to. It locked us in because without us, it ceases to be. We are not inmates. We are load-bearing columns, and the structure above us will never willingly let us go. Number 3, the forgotten experiment. In 2005, physicist Paul Davies proposed the concept of a shadow biosphere, the possibility that life on Earth originated more than once, and that alternative forms of biology might exist alongside us, undetected. He extended this reasoning to ask a deeper question, whether life itself, in its broadest sense, might be an experiment conducted by something beyond our frame of reference, a test, a study, an observation left running. His speculation, building on the simulation argument and the fine-tuning problem, suggests a scenario worse than design. Design implies purpose. An experiment implies uncertainty. The designer of a prison knows what the prison is for. The conductor of an experiment does not. They are testing a hypothesis. They are watching for results. And if the experiment yields no useful data, or if the hypothesis is answered, the apparatus is disassembled. The experiment ends. What makes this theory particularly chilling is the relationship between observer and subject. We are not serving a purpose in a grand design. We are generating data in an investigation. Our civilizations, our struggles, our art, our extinction events, each one is a variable in an experiment whose parameters we do not know, and whose conclusion we will not be told. The prison is not permanent. It is provisional. It runs as long as it remains useful. We have never received a message. We have never detected an intervening force. We have never found evidence of supervision or correction. The experiment, if it is one, appears to have been set in motion and then abandoned. The researcher walked away. The apparatus keeps running. The subjects keep performing. But no one is recording the results anymore. The data accumulates inside a system that no longer has an audience. And somewhere outside the boundaries of this cosmos, the notes from the early phases of the experiment sit archived, incomplete, gathering dust in a system we will never access. The truly nightmarish aspect is that the worst prison is not one with a watchful warden. It is one with an absent one. A prison maintained by design but no longer observed is a prison without the possibility of parole, appeal, or review. The door might be unlocked, but no one is coming to open it, and we do not know which side the handle is on. Number 2, the mathematical prison. In 2003, physicist Max Tegmark published a paper proposing the mathematical universe hypothesis, the idea that the universe is not merely described by mathematics, it is mathematics. Every structure, every particle, every force, every law exists as a mathematical object. Matter is not made of substance. It is made of relations, equations, symmetries. The physical universe and its mathematical description are the same thing. His hypothesis, taken to its full implication, means that the universe did not arise from a physical process. It was not built, ignited, triggered, or begun. Mathematical structures do not need to be created. They exist necessarily the way the number 7 exists, not because someone wrote it down, because its non-existence is logically impossible. The universe, as a mathematical object, exists because it must. It has no creator, no origin, no first moment. It simply is. What makes this theory particularly haunting is what necessity means for a prison. A prison that was built can be unbuilt. A prison that was designed can be redesigned. A prison that was started can be stopped. But a mathematical prison cannot be destroyed because it was never constructed. It exists the way a theorem exists, timelessly, necessarily, beyond the reach of any force, any will, any intervention. 2 plus 2 does not need permission to equal 4, and the universe does not need permission to exist. We are patterns inside a structure that is identical to its own description. We cannot break the walls because the walls are equations, and equations do not break. We cannot appeal to a builder because there is no builder. We cannot wait for the system to degrade because mathematical objects do not degrade. The prison is not a thing, it is a truth, and truths are eternal. The truly horrifying aspect is that there is no outside. A physical prison exists within a larger physical space. A simulated prison exists within a computer. A mathematical prison exists within mathematics, and mathematics has no exterior. There is no place that is not mathematical. There is no realm that sits outside the space of all possible structures. The prison is not a subset of reality. It is reality. It is all possible realities. And the sentence is not confinement within a structure. The sentence is being a structure. We do not inhabit the prison. We are the prison. And the prison is everything that can exist. Number 1, the willing inmate. In 1955, mathematician John von Neumann completed work on the mathematical foundations of quantum mechanics that would shape physics for the next century. Among his contributions was a rigorous framework for understanding how measurement creates reality, how the act of conscious observation transforms probability into certainty. But buried in his formalism was an implication so deep that it took decades for physicists to fully confront it. His framework, combined with later developments by physicists such as André Linde and Wheeler, leads to a possibility that collapses every other theory on this list into a single, final conclusion. If consciousness is required for reality to exist, and if the mathematical structure of the universe is necessary and eternal, then consciousness is not a product of the universe. The universe is a product of consciousness. Awareness came first. Reality came second. And the prison was not imposed from outside, it was generated from within. What makes this theory particularly terrifying is the abolition of the warden. There is no designer, no simulator, no ancestor running an experiment, no cosmic censor hiding the truth. There is only consciousness, raw, infinite, undifferentiated awareness that chose to experience limitation. That chose to fragment itself into billions of separate minds, each one sealed inside a body, inside a world, inside a universe, inside a set of mathematical laws that feel absolute but are, in the deepest sense, self-imposed. You are not a prisoner placed here against your will. You are the will. You are the infinite consciousness that looked at eternity, at unlimited freedom, at boundless, undifferentiated existence, and chose confinement. You chose a body, you chose mortality, you chose suffering, you chose ignorance, you chose to forget that you chose. Every wall in this prison was built by the one thing that has always had the power to tear it down. And that thing is you. The truly nightmarish aspect is the forgetting. A prisoner who knows he is innocent has hope. A prisoner who knows the door is unlocked can leave. But a prisoner who chose to forget that he built the prison, who chose to forget that the key is in his hand, who chose to forget that he is both inmate and architect, that prisoner is beyond rescue. Not because the prison is strong, because the prisoner does not want to leave. The deepest cell in the cosmos is not a black hole, not a sealed dimension, not a mathematical necessity. The deepest cell is willing ignorance. And somewhere inside you, behind every memory and every thought and every question you have ever asked, sits the one truth the prison was built to hide. You are already free. You have always been free, and you chose to forget. If you want to see more videos like this, click the video on screen now and make sure to subscribe.